Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullum, and today we are taking a look at the SIG P230JP. This is the Japanese police version of the sort of venerable SIG P230 design, not to be mistaken for the 320, which is the modern service pistol. The P230 is a pistol that SIG introduced. This was before, well before, the American buyout of SIG. It was introduced in 1977 as a police pistol. Specifically, there was interest in having them adopted in West Germany and in Switzerland. Now, it was adopted in Switzerland for some police use. It wasn't adopted in West Germany, but that was the idea. This is essentially a sort of modernized version of the Walther PP or PPK. It's a fixed barrel, simple blowback, single stack magazine, double action, single action. Like this, and the SIG 230 was in many ways sort of the pinnacle of the development of this style of pistol. It was a little bit bigger than the Walther PP in the grip. It was a little easier to handle, a little easier to shoot, a little bit harder to conceal, but for the police use, this was less about concealment than it was about having a compact, lightweight, belt-carried pistol. And there were a lot of police departments outside of major military ones and other security organizations that really liked the P320. So now let's step over to the Japanese side of the equation, because this is specifically the Japanese version of this. Well, what's going on with Japan? Well, Japan, the Japanese National Police Force, up until 1995 had been carrying their M60 revolver, which was essentially a copy of a Smith & Wesson 5-shot 38. The really, really old-fashioned. In fact, you'd be really hard-pressed to come up with a more old-fashioned gun for a police force to carry, short of maybe something like the 1870s Belgian gendarmerie double-barreled rolling block pistol, something like that. Like the Japanese police, the Japanese society in general was and still is heavily anti-gun, anti-militaristic these days, and the M60 revolver did probably what the police needed it to do while being very small, very light, very unimposing, unthreatening, not militaristic. And for a large portion of the Japanese police force, that was the ideal, and that's kind of what they wanted. But there was also a group of reform-minded folks in the police who thought, look, it's 1995, we need to have some sort of like actual real pistol for the police. 9mm parabellum, it's kind of the global standard, kind of has been for a long time now. How about we get a modern pistol? And this came to a head in 1995 with an actual series of trials to replace the M60 revolvers. And to satisfy one side, they tested guns like the Beretta 92 and the Glock 17. They actually tested the HK P7M8, interestingly. And then on the other side, they tested things like the Walther PP and the SIG P230. Now, the P230 was sort of seen as the compromised choice, and it won the trials, and it was formally accepted in 1995. So let's take a closer look at what the Japanese accepted, because they wanted something with a few different features than a standard P230. All right, first the very basics on the 230. This is a single stack, simple blowback pistol. It was available in 9mm Ultra, which is something we'll get to later, as well as 32 and 380. Now in the United States, 380 is the by far dominant caliber. 32s are pretty darn rare. The Japanese police opted for a 32, and that gave them a 7-round capacity in the magazine. It does use a heel release for the magazine. That is very secure. There's no way you're accidentally releasing that. The hammer is exposed, but really thoroughly shrouded. So there's enough sticking out here that you can cock it if you want to. Normally, you would carry this in double action. This lever at the front is our decocker. So you drop that all the way down. We'll safely decock the pistol. And that was it for the safety mechanisms on the standard 230, with the exception of internal automatic safeties. The Japanese, however, wanted something more than that. They wanted a manual safety on the gun as well. And so they got one added to the left side of the frame here. So that's in safe, and it also locks the slide. It locks that trigger from going all the way back. That's the fire position. Now, it's a little goofy that they did this because, as I understand it, general legal standards for police use of firearms in Japan mandate that they be carried chamber empty anyway. So do you really need the manual safety along with a decocked double action gun? Well, honestly, this is a country that's not hugely firearms savvy in general. They also wanted a lanyard loop on the guns, so SIG added this guy under the left side grip. Nothing particularly fancy, but that is a unique special feature just for the Japanese police contract. All the rest of our features here are pretty standard. We have a white dot on the front sight. We have a square notch with a single white dot on the rear. So you kind of line them up standing on top of each other like that to aim. The gun is simple blowback in operation. We can disassemble it here by cocking it, making sure it's empty, dropping the slide release lever, and then the slide just lifts up and pulls off the front of the frame, just like a Walther PP, a Makarov, any of the other copies of this sort of fixed barrel system. So this one, there we go, spring comes off. There's your very nice lightweight frame. Fixed barrel, these are pretty accurate pistols because they have that nice fixed barrel. And that's about it. Nothing particularly technologically strange or unorthodox about the P230. If we take a look at the markings, there are no specific Japanese police markings on here. It's just marked P230, SIG Sauer, made in Germany. This is that period when SIG was, making guns in Germany. If we look at the other side, it gets a little bit more interesting. We have German proof marks. This is the mark of the Kiel proof house, which is the closest proof house to SIG's factory in Germany. KH is the proof mark date code, that's 1997. These were 7.65B. The B stands for Browning, presumably because they didn't want to write a competitor's full name on the pistol. So 765 Browning, aka 32 ACP. These are marked SIG Arms Inc., Exeter, New Hampshire, and that's from when they were imported into the United States. Now, there are two separate serial ranges here. There's S181 and some extra digits, and there's S163. And one of the interesting anomalies of these guns is that the 181 series guns are marked made in Germany, where the 163 series are actually marked made in West Germany, which suggests that when SIG made these presumably early guns for the Japanese police contract, they had some leftover parts from earlier production because by 1995, Germany had reunified and they weren't marking things West Germany anymore. But if they had a bunch of slides in place, they seem to have used them to put together these Japanese police guns. It's worth noting that even the ones that say made in West Germany still have 1997 proof codes on them. They all have a 1997 proof code. So that is what you would expect from a Japanese. This is with the SIG Exeter, New Hampshire mark. This is specifically for an American import, a commercial release of the Japanese contract SIG 230. Now, the problem with this adoption is that the P230 was the compromise choice, which means kind of by definition that it made nobody happy. Everybody was upset with it. The more reform-minded modernist folks in the police force, now instead of having a proper service pistol, instead of being handicapped with a revolver, they're handicapped with an undersized, underpowered, undercapacity concealed carry gun. And the traditionalists, instead of having their proper vaguely peaceable looking tiny revolvers, well, now they don't really gain much in firepower. Okay, it's got a couple more shots, but it's actually a weaker cartridge. It's a bigger gun, it's a heavier gun, and it's a much more complicated gun as they see it. Revolver, very simple, put in bullets, pull trigger, gun go bang, done. This has slides and levers and moving parts and sort of that traditionalist viewpoint of revolver, simple, autoloader, complicated, really was a thing over there. And so a lot of the old school guys had less than no interest in a P230. And all of this led to actually very few of them being purchased. It never actually replaced the M60 revolvers. And in fact, what would happen is that in 2006, after a lot of wishy-washiness, the Japanese police ended adopting a new revolver. They adopted the Smith & Wesson 360 scandium framed .38. So they basically just went right back to little tiny, extremely light 38 special revolver. So that left the P230 in, well, it had been developed. There was a special version for the Japanese police. SIG had parts tooled up for it, but not that many were actually sold to Japan. They ended up releasing the leftovers, essentially, that had already been built but not delivered. They released those onto the American market. As you saw, interestingly, it looks like they were made from various extra batches of parts at the time, but it's unclear to me exactly when these came into the country. Most people will say 1997, and that's based on the proof mark on the slides, but I don't think that's when they came in. I think that's just when they were made. I've seen some references to 2003 importation and some references to 2001 importation. And honestly, I'm not sure which is true. So, or possibly they came in two batches. I don't know. If you happen to have bought one of these when they were newly available, or if you have some old records from people selling them and you can enlighten us as to exactly when these guys came into the country, that would be awesome. Let me know down in the comments. If not, hopefully you enjoyed the video. It's a cool, rare version of the SIG P230, and pretty neat that we have them here in the US. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.